Namami buddhaṃ gunasāgarantaṃ Santā sadā hontu sukhi avērā Kāyo jiguñco sakalo dugandho Gacchante sabbhe maranaṃ ahañca Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa Homage to the Exalted One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Three refuge. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. I go to the Buddha for refuge. I go to the Dhamma for refuge. I go to the Sangha for refuge. Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Dutiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. A second time, I go to the Buddha for refuge. A second time, I go to the Dhamma for refuge. A second time, I go to the Sangha for refuge. Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Tatiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. A third time, I go to the Buddha for refuge. A third time, I go to the Dhamma for refuge. A third time, I go to the Sangha for refuge. 5 precepts. Panchasila. Pānātipātā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training rule to abstain from taking life. Adinādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training rule to abstain from stealing. Kāmesu micchācārā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training rule to abstain from sexual misconduct. Musāvādā veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training rule to abstain from false speech. Surameraya majjapamā daṭṭhāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. I undertake the training rule to abstain from intoxicating drinks and drugs causing heedlessness. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Buddha Vandana, homage to the Supreme Buddha. ඉතිපිසෝ භගවා අරහං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධෝ විඤ්ඤාචරණ සම්පන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝකවිදු අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරති සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානම් බුද්ධෝ භගවාති. Such indeed the exalted one, worthy, supremely enlightened, endowed with knowledge and conduct, well gone, nor of the world, incomparable trainer of persons to be tamed, supreme teacher of deities and men, enlightened and exalted. Dhamma Vandana, homage to the teachings of the exalted one. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditthiko Akaliko Ehi Passiko Opanayiko Panchantang Veditambo Vinyuhiti. Dhamma is well expounded by the exalted one. Visible results, immediately effective, calling one to come and see, leading onwards, and to be personally realized by the wise. Sangha Vandana, homage to the noble disciples of the Blessed One. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ujupatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Nyaya Patipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Samiche Patipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Yadedan Chantari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Pungalan Esa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakkeneyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuntaram Punyakentam Lokansati. The order of the exalted one's disciples is practicing well. The order of the exalted one's disciples is practicing rightly. The order of the exalted one's disciples is practicing correctly. The order of the exalted one's disciples is practicing properly. This is the four pairs of persons, the 8 kinds of individuals. This order of the Blessed One's disciples is worthy of offerings and hospitality, worthy of gifts and salutation, the supreme field of merit for the world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devatam Sandhammang Munirajasa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayam Badantam Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayam Badantam Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayam Badantam Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Atti bhikkhave samma ditti Ariya anasava lokuttara maggangati. Venerable members of the Mahasangha, friends in Dhamma, devotees, you are going to listening to this Dhamma sermon and practicing the Dhamma, what the Supreme Buddha explained. In this discussion, we are going to explain Sammaditthi or right understanding. Right understanding is divided into two. One of them is the mundane level Sammaditthi or right understanding. The other one is the supramundane level Sammaditthi. I think you can remember last week we discussed the first part of the Sammaditthi, Kammasakata Sammaditthi. Now we are going to discuss the second part of the right view, supramundane level Sammaditthi. Before we are going to start this Dhamma sermon, we hope to practice a meditation technique for our inner peace and mental culture. Therefore, friends in Dhamma, please get ready for our sitting meditation session. Be seated comfortably. Relax your body, please. Be aware of your body posture that you are sitting here. And also be aware of your body posture from your legs to head and from your head to legs. And now take a deep breath in, please. Hold few seconds. And breathe out slowly. Again, take a deep breath in. Hold it few seconds. Breathe out slowly. Now keep your attention around the nose or upper lip in the present moment. Now I am going to practice breathing meditation. When I breathe in and out, I am aware of my breathing in and out. I am mindful about my natural breathing in and out. When I breathe in, I know that now I am breathing in. When I breathe out, I am mindful that now I am breathing out. If you like, you can count your breathing in and out. When you take a breath in and out, you can you can think it as 1. Next time you breathe in and out, you can count it as second or 2. Like that, from 1 to 10, you can count your breathing in and out. After you complete your first 10 breathing in and out, you can start from 1. If you can concentrate your mind in breathing in and out without counting numbers, you can do like that. Breathing in, breathing out. We are aware of here our very natural breathing in and out. Breathing in, breathing out. When I breathe in alone, I understand now I am breathing in alone. When I breathe out alone, we understand that now I am breathing out alone. When I breathe in short, I understand that now I am breathing in short. When I breathe out short, I am aware of that now I am breathing out short. I am completely aware of my breathing in and out, keeping my attention around the nose or upper lip. When I gain concentration in breathing in and out, my mind gradually calms down. I feel happiness when I breathe in and out mindfully. My mind gradually becomes concentration. When mind gradually concentrates, I feel inner peace, happiness. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I contemplate on my natural breathing in and out. Whenever I keep my attention in breathing in and out, in the present moment, my mind gradually gains concentration. My inner peace gradually increases. Therefore, in my day-to-day life, I practice breathing meditation for my inner peace. Every moment, my body changes. Mind also changes. This is the impermanence that happens to my body and mind. Every moment, my physical body arises because of some conditions. When conditions cease, my body every moment ceases. This is the nature of my physical body. My mind also changes. When conditions arise, my mind arises. When conditions cease, my mind also ceases. In short, my entire life is that body and mind. With details, my life is that five aggregates: Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. Rupa means form, Vedana feeling, Sanya perception, Sankhara mental formations, and Vijnana consciousness. These five things every moment arise with conditions. When conditions cease, these five aggregates immediately cease. My entire life is that arising and ceasing of the five aggregates. As the result of my previous karma formations, these five aggregates arise at the moment. The very first experience of five aggregates as the result of karma is neutral. The very first experience five aggregates are neither pleasant nor unpleasant. That is neither wholesome nor unwholesome. That is just a result or vipaka. When I am ignorant, these five aggregates come to the clinging of five aggregates. That is the reason of suffering. That is the cause of suffering. I understand this reality. Whenever I contemplate on arising and ceasing of five aggregates, at the moment I am free from suffering, since my mind is not fixed anything outside or even inside. I reflect on impermanence of arising and ceasing of five aggregates. Whatever I experience through my six senses, when I see, when I hear, when I smell, when I taste, when I touch something, when I remember something, every moment these five aggregates arise, and immediately they cease. They arise together, they cease together. Arising, ceasing, arising, ceasing. Everything is impermanent. Everything is dissatisfactory. Everything is selfless. He who sees this reality with wisdom overcomes suffering. This is the path to purity. Arising, ceasing, arising, ceasing. Day by day, I increase the duration of practicing Anapanasati Bhavana, breathing meditation, as a concentration meditation technique. On the other side, I reflect on impermanence, arising and ceasing of five aggregates. The real success of development of my spiritual life is that the duration of practicing concentration and insight meditation. Therefore, day by day, I increase the duration of practicing concentration and insight meditation for my inner peace, which helps me to overcome suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Venerable members of the Mahasangha, friends in Dhamma, devotees. Now we are going to discuss our today's Dhamma topic. As I mentioned before, we are going to explain the second part of Sammaditthi or right vision. Last week, we discussed the first part of Sammaditthi, Kammasakata Sammaditthi, right understanding which relates to Kammasakata Jnana or the knowledge of karmic energy. In this discussion, our purpose is that to explain the second part of Sammaditthi, Ariya Anasava Lokuttara Magganga. Buddha says, there is a right view, which is noble, which is wholesome, which is supramundane, which is a factor of the path, the noble Eightfold Path. When we practice karmic energy, especially when we practice good deeds, we can develop our inner peace. We can develop our environment in the correct way. According to the karmic law, in the mundane level, we can practice three meritorious deeds: generosity, virtue, and mental culture, meditation. Among these three meritorious deeds, practicing loving kindness meditation is the highest quality that helps us to develop our spirituality in the mundane level. That is why in Buddhism, practicing loving kindness is highly recommended and appreciated for our spiritual development. The reason is that when we have positive thoughts with loving kindness thoughts, our entire body and mind gradually change. We always do our activities with compassion and loving kindness if we practice loving kindness meditation always. That is very important. Practicing loving kindness meditation is the best way to develop our spirituality, and that is the best way to reduce our negative results of our previous karma. Having the result of practicing loving kindness thoughts in the mundane level, we should go to the next level. What is the reason that we go to the next level of Sammaditthi or right understanding? Even though we practice good deeds in the mundane level, still we are in ignorance or delusion. What is the delusion or ignorance? Delusion means we think there is a world around us, physical world. Even though we don't experience the world, there is a world we think. That is the nature of ignorance. And also, we think there is a material world, that before we experience something, there was a world. After we finish the experience, the world remains. That is also one of the ignorances that we have. Ignorance can be explained in various ways. Why do we need to overcome this ignorance? When we are ignorant, our mind suddenly is fixed in outside. If our mind is fixed outside material things, it means when those things change, we get suffering. We are unable to overcome the samsaric circle, which consists of suffering. As the result of ignorance, mental formations arise. That is why Buddha says, avidya paccaya sankhara. Through ignorance are conditioned mental formations, sankhara. Mental formations are divided into three. The very first one is the punya sankhara, meritorious mental formations, and apunya sankhara, demeritorious mental formations, and anindya sankhara, imperturbable mental formations. These mental formations arises because of ignorance. When we think there is a world outside, then mental formations which consist with ignorance arise. It means we are in the samsaric circle. We have to face suffering when we are ignorant. Why is that? If our mind is fixed outside things, when those things change, we get suffering. We are suffering. If we want to overcome the suffering of aging, decay, sickness, death, and suffering, we have to realize this nature. For that, we have to develop our Sammaditthi, right understanding. The more we understand the right view, the more we can overcome ignorance or delusion. The Exalted One explains that there are 4 factors that help us to develop Sammaditthi. Sammaditthi develops in the field of 4 factors. Those are Kalyana Mitra Asraya, associating with good friends, Saddhamma Savana, listening to Dhamma, Yoniso Manasikara, wise reflection, and Patipatti, practice. These 4 things help us to develop Sammaditthi, or right understanding. When we meet a person, if he explains the Buddha's message, then we can understand the Dhamma, and also we can develop right reflection, wise consideration according to what we heard. And also we can cleanse the path that leads to getting rid of suffering, Patipatti, the Noble Eightfold Path, or the 3 disciplines. Here, associating good friends plays a very big role. That is why Buddha has always explains the importance of having good association. If we are wise and if we like to develop our spirituality, we can meet good friends. This is one of the main reasons that decides our spiritual path. Not only we should have good friends who explains the Buddha's message, but we should pay attention to what they say. And also we should be wise and mindful to listening to Dhamma and practice the Dhamma. With this understanding, we especially understand the 4 Noble Truths. Buddha says, in the Supramundane level, Sammaditthi, we should understand the very special thing which is the 4 Noble Truths. Understanding 4 Noble Truths leads to getting rid of suffering. What are the 4 Noble Truths? Dukkha Satya, the noble truth of suffering. Samudaya Satya, the noble truth of the origin of suffering. Nirodha Satya, the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. Marga Satya, the noble truth of the path that leads to getting rid of suffering. This is the heart of Buddhism. understanding the Four Noble Truths decides whether we are going on the path of liberation or we are going to the samsaric circle. The very first thing is very important, dukkha satya. What is the dukkha satya or the noble truth of suffering? In the primary level, we can understand according to Dhammacakka Sutta. Buddha says, Jatipi dukkha, jarapi dukkha, vyadipi dukkho, maranampi dukkha, like that. Birth is suffering, decay is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering, separation from beloved ones is suffering, associating with disliked person is suffering. Finally, Buddha says, in short, Sankitena Panchupadana Khanda Dukkha. The clinging to five aggregates is suffering. We can understand these things, and also especially Buddha explained in his message what is the real nature of the noble truth of suffering. There is a very special explanation in Buddhism. The Blessed One says what the dukkha satya is. Kāyikan dukkhaṃ cetasika dukkhaṃ tapettva avasesaṃ dukkha satyam. The Buddha says there is something except physical suffering and mental suffering. That is the noble truth of suffering. This is a very special explanation what the Buddha explained. What is that? There is something except physical suffering and mental suffering. That is the noble truth of suffering. What is that? This is very important. Here Buddha says, the very first experience that we receive as the result of our previous actions. When we look at something, when we hear something, when we smell something, when we taste something, when we touch something, when we remember something, when one sense arises, immediately five aggregates arise. That very first experience is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. That is neither wholesome nor unwholesome. That is just a vipaka or result. That is neutral. That very first experience is neutral. That is why Buddha says it doesn't belong to physical suffering or mental suffering. It is just a result, just a vipaka. If we don't understand this reality, next we create the new karma. Because of our ignorance, mental formations arise. When we look at something, we think that we recognize something through our eye consciousness. But that is not true. What is the reality? What is the truth? The truth of that when we recognize something through our eye consciousness, actually we recognize that not through our eye consciousness, but through our mind consciousness. That is why Buddha says, Na panchahi vinyanehi kenachi dhamma pativijanati. We are unable to recognize something through our five consciousnesses. We recognize everything through our mind consciousness. The interesting thing here is that when we recognize something through our mind consciousness, the very first experience which helped us to understand something has ceased. Our eye has ceased, form has ceased, eye consciousness has ceased, eye contact has ceased, mental formations of form has ceased, and perception of form has ceased. This is the reality. The very first experience is the noble truth of suffering. When we are ignorant, We have attachment to the world, that is the cause of suffering. If we understand this reality, if we keep our attention in the cessation of these five aggregates, then we are in the end of the cessation, Nirodha Anta, the end of cessation. We look at it wisely and mindfully. That is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, Nirodha Satya. Then we find the path that leads to getting rid of suffering. What is the path? The path is that the Noble Eightfold Path in details. We can say it as three disciplines in short: Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Virtue, concentration, and wisdom. In very short, practice in mindfulness. This is the Four Noble Truths. If we are able to understand this reality, this understanding helps us to go forward on this path. Why do we need to practice this path? If we practice only the first part of Samadhi, we can develop some good deeds, meritorious deeds, but still we are in ignorance. We think there is a material world outside. If we think that there is a material world, it means we are not away from suffering. We are in the sansaric circle. Then avidya paccaya sankhara. Through ignorance, our conditioned mental formations arise. And through mental formations is conditioned consciousness. Through consciousness are conditioned mentality and corporeality. Like that, little by little, we are going around the sansaric circle. It ends with suffering, jara, marana, soka, parideva. This is the sansaric circle. Even though we practice the karmic law or good karma, we collect some mental formations. Sometimes they are meritorious mental formations. Sometimes they are ananjabi sankhara, imperturbable mental formations. But still we are in the sansaric circle. We have to face some challenges because of this ignorance. Buddha says there are three challenges that we have. What they are? The suffering of aging, the suffering of death, the suffering of rebirth. These are the reasons why we need to develop our right understanding. These are the reasons that we need to find a spiritual teacher and his sublime message. Before Buddha appeared in the world, there were some ascetic people who practiced some good deeds. They developed their mind to the maximum level in the mundane level with imperturbable mental formations, ananjabi sankhara. They had achieved some mental states in the higher level in jhanas, arupavachara jhanas, but still they are in the sansaric circle. After Buddha appeared in the world, he explained a very special explanation that atti bhikkhave kammang akanna sukhang akanna sukha vipakam. Buddha says there are some karmas, mental formations, which result not to get some white karma or black karma, which results to have overcome the sansaric circle, kammakaya samvattati. This is the thing that Buddha has explained when he attained enlightenment. For that, what do we need to do? In one side, we have to practice concentration meditation for our inner peace and concentrate our mind. Our mind always goes here and there. In this situation, first of all, we should have discipline in our speech and behavior. Next, we have to concentrate our mind in a particular wholesome object. When mind is concentrated, we have to reflect on insight meditation. Practicing insight meditation is the way how we overcome the samsaric circle completely. How do we practice insight meditation? First of all, we should keep our attention in the present moment. Keeping our attention in the present moment, we reflect on impermanence of past experience. What is the past experience? Our inner senses and external objects. I is impermanent, form is impermanent, I consciousness is impermanent, eye contact is impermanent. Ear is impermanent, sound is impermanent, ear consciousness is impermanent, ear contact is impermanent. Nose is impermanent, smell is impermanent, nose consciousness is impermanent, nose contact is impermanent. And now tongue is impermanent, and taste is impermanent, and tongue consciousness is impermanent, like that. Body is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, body consciousness is impermanent, everything is impermanent. When we look at something, suddenly we keep our attention in the previous experience. Because of our ignorance, we think at the moment we see something. Actually, we can see something at the moment, but we recognize something the very first experience has ceased. This is the discovery that Buddha realized in this world. The ordinary people explain something to getting rid of suffering, but they always look at outside. They go away from the outside in the present moment, but still they are in ignorance because they live in the past experience. That is why suffering arises. The Buddha's discovery is that we should reflect on the past experience as impermanent. When we keep our attention in the past experience as impermanent, dissatisfactory, and selfless, we suddenly overcome the suffering which comes from outside. When we reflect on impermanence of our past experience, we think, now around me, the world has already ceased. I recognize everything through my mind consciousness. That mind consciousness is also impermanent. That also arises and ceases at the moment. If we want to realize this reality, we have to practice this path again and again. Then we meet the path that leads to getting rid of suffering, the Noble Eightfold Path. Samadhi. Right understanding means understanding the Four Noble Truths or understanding the five aggregates. When we have this understanding, we start our spiritual journey, then we develop Samma Sankappa, right intention or right thoughts. Nekkhamma Sankappa, Avyapada Sankappa, Avihimsa Sankappa. The intention free from ill will, cruelty, and sensual pleasure. Here we develop the thoughts of renunciation, the thoughts of loving kindness. Especially we practice loving kindness thoughts in this second stage of the Noble Eightfold Path. Samma Sankappa. Then Samma Vacha. We practice right speech. If we have a correct vision, then automatically we have a discipline in our speech. We abstain from foolish speech, useless words. Always we speak something, contemplating on it again and again, whether it is correct. And also right action. We abstain from killing beings, stealing, and sexual misconduct. As a layperson, you can spend your common life, but you should have a limit, which is that the 5 precepts. Practice in 5 precepts helps you to develop this path. That is very important. Not only right action that we have, the next one is Samma Ajiva, right livelihood. When we earn some money for our day-to-day life, we should earn money righteously, honestly, without going to harmful jobs, such as killing beings, selling drugs and poison, selling weapons, selling some beans for food. These are the evil careers that we have to abstain if we are on the path of liberation. The next one is that Samma Vayama, right effort. We should have an effort to overcome evil sin. We should have an effort to practice good deeds. That belongs to Samma Ajiva, right livelihood. And also right mindfulness. We practice mindfulness, being aware of our mind and body. Buddha says, practicing mindfulness is the only way for the getting rid of suffering. Practicing mindfulness is the only way for the purification of beings. Whenever we are mindful, it means we are on the path of liberation. It means outside persons and things, especially the Mara, the devil, can't disturb our peace of mind. The next one is right concentration. As the result of practicing mindfulness meditation for a long time, we are able to develop our concentration using some meditation techniques, samatha bhavana. When mind gains concentration, we reflect on impermanence again and again. Samahito bhikkhave bhikkhu yatha bhutam pajanati. When a person concentrates his mind, then he reflects on impermanence. How do we practice impermanence? We can reflect on impermanence as our senses, objects, 5 aggregates, nama rupa, mentality and corporeality. These are the things that we reflect on as impermanent. Here, it is very important to understand the 4 noble truths and the 5 aggregates. Understanding the 4 noble truths, 5 aggregates, dependent origination, and the noble Eightfold Path are interrelated. When we understand the 4 noble truths, we understand the dependent origination. At the same time, we understand the 5 aggregates. And also we understand the path, the noble Eightfold Path. Finally, we reflect on 3 characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, impermanence, dissatisfactory, and selfless. If we have this discipline, it means we are on the path of liberation. One of the signs that we are on the path of liberation, getting rid of suffering day by day, that living according to the Noble Eightfold Path. Whatever we do in intention, whatever we do with intention, we do everything according to the Noble Eightfold Path. Buddha says, Ujuko nama somaggo abhaya nama sadisa. If someone practices the Noble Eightfold Path, this is the direct path, fearless path, and also the directions are fearless. Whenever we practice the Noble Eightfold Path, we have a safety. Nobody or nothing can disturb our peace of mind as the result of living according to the Noble Eightfold Path. This is the Buddha's highest discovery that he realized when he attained the enlightenment. If we also can understand this path, while we are doing our day-to-day activities, duties and responsibilities, gradually we are going forward on the path of liberation, getting rid of suffering. We are so fortunate. We have received this sublime message, very important message that directly leads to overcome suffering. We don't need to get suffering because Buddha has explained the clear path that leads to getting rid of suffering. First of all, we should have clear understanding how suffering arises and how suffering ceases. Whenever we are ignorant, that if we think there is something outside, before I experience something, there is something outside, after we experience something, it remains. Actually, this is the nature of ignorance. Then, how the world arises? Whenever we open our eyes, at the moment we create the world. According to the conventional truth, there is a material world, whether we experience or not, but according to this ultimate truth, supramundane level, the world is created at the moment by ourselves. According to our mentality, according to our senses, every moment we create the world. Such as when we go to a mirror, at the moment when some conditions arise, the reflection in the mirror arises. When we go away, suddenly it ceases. Our all experiences are also like that. When we see something, it means it like that we go to a mirror. When we hear something, it means we go to another mirror. At once, we have only one sense. When one sense acts, the other five senses don't act. They are dead. One sense is alive at once, then other senses don't work. But these senses are very fast. Our mind is so fast, therefore we think all senses work together because of our ignorance. That is not true. The truth is that one sense works at once. Even though one sense arises, five aggregates arise at the moment. This is the understanding that we should have at first. Buddha says, Samma Ditti Pure Javam. Right understanding is first. The exalted one says very clearly, Janato ham bhikkhave passato asavanam kayam vadami, no ajanato, no apassato. I proclaim the liberation for those who know the path, who see the path. What should we know? We should know the Four Noble Truths very clearly. The Noble Truth of suffering, the very first experience of our karmic law, and Samudaya Satya, The new world we create according to our ignorance, samudaya satya, and the third one is the cessation of suffering. If we reflect on cessation of five aggregates, then we are in the end of the cessation of suffering. And also Marga Satya, the path. What should we practice in order to overcome suffering? The Noble Eightfold Path, or three disciplines. If we have this understanding, we are hurried to go forward because of the confidence in what the Buddha taught, the Four Noble Truths. Our energy, inner motivation increases to the maximum level, virya. According to our saddha or confidence, our inner motivation increases, and also according to our inner motivation or energy, we practice mindfulness, sati. When we practice sati, we gain concentration, samadhi. When mind gains concentration, we reflect on impermanence, arising and ceasing of five aggregates, panya. These are the five spiritual faculties which directly help us to achieve the liberation. Saddha, virya, sati, samadhi, panya. Saddha means confidence in what the Buddha taught, what Buddha realized. Virya means energy. Sati means mindfulness. Samadhi, concentration. And wisdom, panya, reflect on impermanence. In one side, we are going forward on the Noble Eightfold Path. In another way, we practice five spiritual faculties. In another way, we develop seven enlightenment factors, Sattabojjhanga. As the result of practicing this path, we can develop Samma Jnana and Samma Vimukti, right knowledge and right liberation. When mind gains concentration, we again reflect on the Four Noble Truths. The very first truth, the Dukkha Satya, should be realized. Dukkha Satyam Parinyayam. The noble truth of suffering should be realized, should be known, should be understood. And the second noble truth, the origin of suffering, samudaya satyam pahatabbam. The noble truth of the origin of suffering should be overcome. And also nirodha satyam satchikatabbam. The cessation of suffering should be achieved. And also magga satyam bhavetabbam. The noble truth, the path that leads to getting rid of suffering should be developed. These are the things that we should do to achieve the Four Noble Truths. Dukkha Satyam Parinyayam, Samudaya Satyam Pahatabbam, Nirodha Satyam Satchikatabbam, Magga Satyam Bhavetabbam. This is the fearless path. This is the direct path. Whenever we have this understanding and practice this path, it means the directions that wherever we go is fearless and no doubt, because we perform a very correct life. We should not do any slight wrong conduct which is concerned by the wise. Nachakuddhan samachare kinchi yena vinyo pare upadeyum. We should not do any slight wrong conduct which is concerned by the wise. This is the sign that we are going on the path of liberation. Having confidence in our character, discipline in our speech and behavior, day by day, we develop our mind, and also we develop our mental formation, which is panya, or wisdom. Buddha says, as a wise person, the highest qualities that we can practice are concentration and insight meditation. We can see the signs that we are successful in our spiritual life, that our concentration and insight meditation should be developed day by day. We should develop the duration of practicing concentration meditation and insight meditation. This is the real sign that we are successful on the path of liberation. It means we are getting rid of suffering. It means outside persons and things are unable to control us. We make a refuge, assurance inside. That says in Buddhism, Atta depa bhikkhave virata atta sarana na anya sarana. Dhamma depa bhikkhave virata dhamma sarana na anya sarana. Dwell with yourself as an island, as a refuge, with no other refuge. Dwell with the Dhamma as a refuge, as an island, with no other refuge. Even though we are confident in outside persons and things, one day we have to leave them. Even though they live with us, from moment to moment they change. Physically they change, mentally they change. Among the changing world, we can't be confident in. In this situation, we have to create a refuge inside, which is the real refuge, which is the real safety that we should develop in our life. Today, we hope to discuss right understanding, the second part of Sammaditthi, Arya Anasava Lokuttara Magganga. Buddha says, there is a right view which is noble, wholesome, supramundane, and a factor of the path. With this understanding, we find the path, we go forward on the Noble Eightfold Path. As the result of practicing these 8 steps, we achieve the other steps, that Samma Jnana, Samma Vimukti, the other results. Samma Jnana means right knowledge and right liberation. The more we practice the path, the more we overcome greed, anger, and delusion. The more we overcome greed, anger, and delusion, the more we overcome suffering. The more we overcome suffering, the more we purify our mind. It means the more we are happier. Happiness is the main purpose of everyone who was born in this world. In this situation, finally, by practicing this path, we develop our inner peace, happiness. Even though we earn money and persons, they don't help us to develop our inner peace or happiness correctly. That is why we need to listen to this message, and we should go forward on this path by practicing the Buddha's message. As the result of practicing this path, we can definitely develop our inner peace, happiness, liberation, emancipation. For that, I wish you all the best. By the power of this spirituality, may your inner peace increase day by day. Finally, may all of us attain the final bliss of liberation. May the Triple Gem bless you. Friends in Dhamma, if you have any question, you can ask now. Mr. Paul, If you have any question, you can ask.
I just to say I found it very, very helpful to listen to that and to know that when we experience something, the first experience has gone.
Okay.
And so really we don't experience anything directly. It's all arising through conditions. So that is something I want to develop, in my meditation. So thank you very much, Bante, for that.
Okay. If someone has any question, you can ask.
Yeah, Bante, I just wanted to ask something. It's more than a question. It's really like a clarification. I hope the key here is the mindfulness and develop the wisdom that you can only achieve through correct samadhi and understanding the theory of dependent origination. So is it fair to say it's only by practicing the deliverance path that one could reduce or eliminate greed, anger, and the delusion that we experience in our day-to-day life?
Here, it is very important to understand we practice mindfulness as a part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Buddha always emphasized the importance of having correct knowledge before we start mindfulness. It means we should understand the Four Noble Truths. In this current world, a lot of people in the world, they practice mindfulness. They usually think that living in the present moment is mindfulness. Actually, that is not the correct way, what Buddha says. Mindfulness has a deep meaning. When we are going to understand the mindfulness, especially we should know the discourse of Vibhanga, which comes in Samyutta Nikaya. There Buddha says, Satipattanango bhikkhave desisame satipattana bhavanancha satipattana bhavināgamini patipadancha. Buddha explains in this discourse there are three stages of mindfulness. Mindfulness, mindfulness meditation, and the path that leads to mindfulness meditation. Satipatthana, Satipatthana Bhavana, Satipatthana Bhavanagamini Patipada. Satipatthana means keeping our attention in the present moment. That is only the Westerners' practice. That is not enough for liberation. For that, Buddha says we should practice Satipatthana Bhavana. Satipatthana Bhavana means practicing insight meditation. According to Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the discourse of great mindfulness, Buddha says, Samudaya Dhammanupassī viharati, Vaya Dhammanupassī viharati. First of all, we should keep our attention in the present moment with our body and mind. Next, we have to reflect on impermanence, practicing insight meditation. Samudaya Dhammanupassī viharati, Vaya Dhammanupassī viharati, contemplating on arising and ceasing of five aggregates of senses or forms. That belongs to Vipassana Bhavana. Not only that, Satipatthana Bhavanagamini Patipadancha, the path that leads to getting rid of suffering and practicing mindfulness, that belongs to the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path, the first thing is that right understanding or understanding the Four Noble Truths. These three things should be interrelated when we practice mindfulness. That mindfulness directly helps us to overcome greed, anger, and delusion.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you are welcome. Here it is very important to understand mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness belongs to the mundane level. Mindfulness meditation belongs to supramundane level. Mindfulness is concentration mindfulness meditation is that insight meditation. When we practice mindfulness, then other factors of enlightenment gradually increase. What they are? When we practice Satara Satipatthana, fourfold mindfulnesses, then Satara Riddhipada, Satara Samya Pradhana Virya, Pancha Bala, Pancha Indriya, Satta Bojjanga, Arastinga Marga. All other qualities gradually increase when we live in mindfulness. That is the very interesting thing. That mindfulness directly helps us to purify our mind. That mindfulness directly helps us to overcome sorrow and lamentation, grief and pain. That mindfulness directly helps us to gain knowledge and enlightenment. Okay, thank you asking that question. Okay, so
thank you very much, Bhante.
Friends in Dhamma, now we are going to conclude our Sunday Dhamma sermon conducted by the Lester Buddhist Vihara with the instructions of Bhante Sadhananda. I appreciate and pay my gratitude to Bhante Sadhananda and the committee of the Lester Buddhist Vihara conducting this program. We did here the third Dhamma session explaining the second part of Sammaditthi, right understanding. Now, I think you have some idea about the Sammaditthi in the Supramundane level. The more we have understanding about the Sammaditthi in the Supramundane level, the more we should go forward on the path of liberation, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, friends in Dhamma, by the power of this spirituality, may you be well, happy and peaceful. May your all righteous wishes meet with success. Especially, may your spiritual goals meet with success very soon. And finally, may all of us attain the final bliss of liberation. With that intention, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dukkhaṃ pantāca nirdukkhaṃ Bhayaṃ pantāca nirbhayaṃ Sokaṃ pantāca nissokaṃ Hontu sambe pipānino. May the triple gem bless you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.